Hey guys, and down here, this is gonna be my chapters chapter reviews to My Hero Academia 219 to 220, Go Sliding Go, and My Villain Academy. That was so cool. Now, what do we learn from these chapters? And let's try and condense this as much as we can. So Bakugo and Shoto in this first chapter 219 continue their fight against the purse snatchers, with Bakugo essentially showing just how savage he is. When the carbonated dude starts monologuing, Bakugo tells him to get a job, which I thought was like, he's like, "Get a job, asshole," and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I feel like this comment flew under the radar, but this was as fire as whatever happened to Dabi in the past. Burn. And what else? Bakugo is a serious freaking asset when it comes to short to mid-range combat or fighting or anything like that. His maneuverability. Let me say that again. His maneuverability, his hand-to-hand skill and combat skills, his ability to quickly assess the situation, and his improved ability to direct his anger and like turn it into kind of controlled aggression. He's just become awesome. And we learn here that this carbonated guy seems to be using some sort of equipment which he's not very used to, as shown by his extravagant usage of his quirk with it. I mean, like, he's firing off all these like really pressurized streams of water or whatever he's using, soda. And he doesn't seem to have much control. The recoil sends him flying a bit. And the lady almost gets sliced and diced, if not for All Might, and All Might would have broken some bones if not for the quick reaction of our boy Bakugo. And we then see Shoto decide to take action, having assessed the situation whilst observing Bakugo. His decision seems to be to not interfere with the carbonated guy at close range. So he pummels the guy. He literally pummels the guy with a mid-range heat-based attack, sending the guy flying into the icy walls which Shoto had erected a chapter ago. Another hero pops up with All Might as the two lads finish up, commending the boys on their fine work, but not really addressing the fact that he got there really late. Like, he's meant to be a pro hero. I think it's Sliding Go is his name, and he seems to be a speed-based hero. Like, he's very quick, very jittery, and he got there too late. I'm just like, bruh, you're a speed-based hero by the looks of things, and you got there late. That doesn't make sense. So as he speaks, we see. I'm not blaming Horikoshi for that, by the way. I'm just saying, like, this guy's a failure. So as he speaks, we see the equipment the carbonated guy uses break apart around his arms, leaving no evidence behind. And Sliding Go says that this is what happens when you use inferior black market goods, but does not consider that the gauntlets maybe were designed to eradicate themselves so that they couldn't be used to kind of backtrack and find the creators. Who created the equipment? Detnerat. So they seem to be gathering combat data to improve future iterations and concepts and stuff like that. And what's their purpose in this chapter? Why are they put in this chapter? Detnerat have taken Giran, the equipment supplier to the League of Villains, hostage, and they seem to want him to share his list of clients, his clientele, for some reason. And why this in particular? Why do they want that? Why don't they actually want the equipment he's creating or stuff like that, or he's supplying? Well, first off, they're designing their own equipment, but secondly, I feel like it's going to be one of two reasons. It's either to blackmail partnerships with other larger but secretly evil companies. I mean, like, Detnerat seems to be pretty large, so I'm not sure about the larger part, but definitely partnerships with other companies who are secretly evil. Or it could be to go ahead and acquire these companies, as a lot of them may directly manufacture the equipment. And these 2 points may kind of blend, where they blackmail these companies into being acquired, and then they kind of their ability to manufacture suddenly skyrockets because of all the data they've collected and all the blueprints and stuff like that. So either way, Giran tells the president to crawl back into his dad's ballsack, which I thought was pretty ballsy. And the chapter ends with Gigantomachia beating down on the League of Villains, crying at the fact that All For One left him to some weaklings. So all of that within like less than 5 minutes. So chapter 220. This chapter was dope, as we're now following the League of Villains. This is unique because normally we see villains who are already powerful, immensely powerful, fight against our heroes. We see this in One Piece, Bleach, Naruto. We see this in Taizai. We see this. I can't really say about One Punch Man because that's One Punch Man. Let's not go there. What else am I reading? No, that's what I'm reading right now. So we see in everything, the villain is already immensely powerful, but Horikoshi, he's like, nah, we're gonna do this differently. So with our heroes, usually have to go through various arcs in order to defeat said villains. But Horikoshi, like I said, has flipped this on its head really setting the point once again that Shigaraki and Deku are kind of different sides of the same coin, and he's chosen to show us how Shigaraki and the League of Villains are going to develop. This really interests me as a concept because we get to see at least some of the journey these guys go through, and not that they're just super strong and super mad at the world from the get-go. They have this kind of villain development, and a majority of the other mangas could probably do well with this kind of thing. Anyway, this chapter is from the perspective of Spinner, the lizard-looking dude, and they go to the base of the My Hero Academia equivalent of the KKK to try to scratch some funds as they're broke as fuck. And as you can imagine, the CRC, which are the KKK in My Hero Academia, they're incredibly like kind of racist, and they see Spinner and they shit themselves because Spinner, like he has a physically manifesting quirk in the sense that it changed his body, it altered his body. So they see this and it quickly devolves into the League just ruthlessly murdering everyone. And I was like, fair play. Like, we wouldn't do that in this day and age, but fair play, man, fair play. So we then see the conditions the League is living in, with Mr. Compress's arm on the rust. He needs some WD-40. They're so poor he can't afford WD-40, bro. So Toga's equipment, that's breaking, all that stuff. All things which seem to irk Spinner. He doesn't say anything at this point. Dabi then rolls up saying he's the only one actually recruiting members, which is what they're supposed to be doing, before Twice tells us that Dabi's just been going around ruthlessly roasting people to death because he deems them unworthy. And once again, Spinner thinks on how low the League has fallen. He's like, here we are arguing amongst ourselves, even though I didn't really see it as arguing. They're just kind of bantering, but he's like, we're arguing amongst ourselves. We have no money, we have no support. What are we doing? Why am I here? Which is the main thing. Why am I here? So Shigaraki then gives us some exposition. It's been a month since Kurogiri was captured, after he promised to collect the great power that All for One left behind. He failed this, but Shigaraki is now kind of, he mentions it's been hard to contact the doctor, which seems to be their more pressing purpose, and he's holding the case here for the quirk erasing bullets, I think, or the quirk erasing serum of some sort. So I was like, holy crap, I totally forgot about the quirk erasing bullets and the fact that the League were actually in possession of them. So like, I mean, the way they did it was pretty brutal as well. The way they went and saw Overhaul, I think his name was Chiaki, was it Chiaki or something like that, and they just got rid of his arms essentially. But yeah, they've got the quirk erasing bullets and all that, so that's why they're looking for this doctor dude. Now it turns out this doctor has a prolific kind of background behind him, from what we know anyway. He was All for One's attending physician, so he's got to be incredibly good at what he does. He was the developer and overseer of the Nomu project, which is insane considering the amount of biology and kind of human engineering that kind of went into that. Also, he only contacted them over the computer, so Shigaraki has no idea how he looks, but I assume All for One would have met the guy in person considering all of his modifications. So Spinner then goes off on a mad one, talking about how his life was meaningless and empty before he saw Stain's final moments on TV, and how how this guy Stain was trying to change the world. In order to break out of this suffocating world, Spinner had decided to join the League in kind of Stain's memory, inspired by Stain, and he goes off on a real crazy one, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up, no one gives a shit. So, I mean, like, obviously it's good development in the Spinner sense, but I'm just like, as a villain, like, I understand why he's irked and stuff like that, but it reminds you once again that these guys are all fairly young. I mean, like, maybe apart from a few of them, but Shigaraki is definitely quite young. Dabi is definitely quite young, probably 20s, early 20s, maybe teens, late teens or something like that. So like, these guys are all quite young, so it's fair, it's okay for them to react like this, to be fired up and stuff like that because of where they're at. But he just sounds very complainy, and I'm just like, believe in the process, bruh. Shigaraki's got an idea. Like, he doesn't really have an idea, but you know, things happen. Just stick with the process, especially if you like, no point. And then the whole thing when he's like calling himself like empty and meaningless, I'm like, yeah, it's cool, but that's kind of edgy, you know, I'm not about that life. So another side note, I love how the League takes kind of little shots at each other. It shows how kind of close they are, with Dabi calling Spinner cheap Stain. That's not really, that was a point that actually hit home a bit. So I was like, oh, that's maybe a bit too far. But Toga realizing that Shigaraki didn't say he wasn't lonely without Kurogiri, I was like, that's pretty funny. Also, Toga and Twice seem to be getting on better than the rest of them, which is quite cool, seeing as they do have that little history behind them. Spinner grabs Shigaraki by the shirt, asking what they are doing, where they are headed. All valid questions for someone who he's the type of guy, Spinner, who needs something to drive towards. Which I get it. Spinner, he says he felt empty, he felt meaningless. He clings to this kind of this. I need to be working towards something. I need something to fill me. Or it's just emptiness. I can understand why he clings to this with manic depression or manic desperation. But once again, it's one of those ones where I feel like Shigaraki, although he has a goal in mind, he's just kind of not so. He's not so desperate to achieve it that he's definitely gonna achieve it at some point. That's his goal, but he's not empty without it. It's something he's working towards. It's something he's in a process towards, but he's not like Spinner, who's like he needs something to do. He needs to be on his way towards his goal, or he's just empty. So anyway, large noise outside suggests large being outside. The League roll out, see Gigantomachia roll up with his radio around his neck. Gigantomachia is one of the battle assets left behind by All For One. Now, I was like, wait a second, one of the battle assets? Does that mean that there are multiple battle assets left behind by All For One? If Gigantomachia is one battle asset and there are multiple others, like just judging them from the one battle asset we've seen so far, the heroes are in for some shit. I mean, like Gigantomachia, he's a huge asset. Look at that guy. I mean, like, he might be the greatest of the assets. The others might be like technology, data being something that might be quite key in this, especially with Detnerat. There might be facilities, it might be money, it might be some sort of bioengineered drugs or some shit like that. But Gigantomachia is one of these said battle assets, so that's a huge one to start off with. Anyway, Shigaraki thinks that Gigantomachia is rolled up, and he's just there like, hi, I'm gonna join, nice to meet y'all. But the big boy wants Shigaraki to prove his worth, to prove himself, and this brings us to Toga and Mr. Compress on the floor, and Spinner wondering what the fuck is going on. Now, at that moment, the radio Gigantomachia kind of tossed off when he got there, speaks up with Shigaraki identifying the doctor on the other side, and the doctor just simply asks, or says, it looks like you're in trouble, Shigaraki. And I was like, okay, so, I mean, like, did the doctor send over Gigantomachia? Like, yeah, you send them over, like, you go there, when you start kicking their asses, start screaming, and then I'll kind of cue in and just be like, oh, it looks like you're in trouble, boys. I mean, like, how does he know? Anyway, that's the end of the chapter. I really hope we follow the villains for quite a bit. It's a breath of fresh air, but also super important to see Deku's nemesis develop from the ground up, because the point is that these guys within the league, they're just as new, just as fresh, just as green, as experienced, less as UA students, maybe a little bit more experienced, seeing as like they've been through different things, which is why they're villains. The villains usually always have that kind of edginess to them, where they've been through something that the heroes haven't, which has led them down this path. So they might have a little bit extra to them, but they are more or less as experienced as the UA students, which is why I feel this is so important, why I feel this is a good direction to go by Horikoshi. And it should show us what these guys are made of, and once we see them kind of fight against the heroes once again, we don't just think, oh, that's an ass pull, or their ideology is shit, or anything like that. We can look at them and say, we know where these guys come from, we know what they've been through, this is dope. And I'm actually really looking forward to that. Like, I shit on My Hero quite a bit, like with its 15-page chapters. I don't actually mention that too much, but like the kind of very weird vibe that, like, the kids are the schoolish kind of vibe we get, and the fact that we don't actually get to see them in like perilous situations day in, day out. But like I've said before, that's not kind of the point of this manga, and that's not very realistic either. You're not always in a perilous situation, especially seeing as they're being taught to become heroes and they're not actually pro heroes as of yet. So with that having been said, let me know what you guys thought of this review. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. It's been like 15 minutes, so that's as much as I could have condensed it. I'll see you guys hopefully either later today or tomorrow for the Taizai review. So see you guys in somewhat a bit.